Nathan, I know this is a Cobra because it says so, but I thought all Cobras were convertibles.
Nope, this one was built to race, but the one you're looking at here is a little bit different than the one that actually raced. This is actually a genuine car. You can get in it, drive in it, sit in it all day. The race cars, the Daytonas, were not quite made like this. And here's the interesting part. This bad boy, completely sanctioned by Shelby, and it's gorgeous.
Coming up next on the Fast Lane card. Nathan, it's okay.
I'm good, I'm good.
You good? You good? Okay. Check it out now. Here's the hardest question of all. What's your favorite car in the garage?
You know, that is asked a lot, and very tough for me to answer. I will tell you the car I drive the most, and we haven't actually covered that yet, and that's the Shelby Cobra Daytona Coupe.
Yeah, tell me about
that car is on a different level. You know, it's just, we've done some photographing again, and every time I look at it, it just blows my mind, and you'll obviously get that effect in the videos. The Daytona, wow, I tell you, I have a hard time even getting words to describe it. I've done about 13,000 miles in my Daytona out there. Coupe 98, I originally built it for Carol, and he had the car for just short of a year. He only put about 300 or 400 miles on it because he was driving it between Gardena and Bel Air. And he kept asking me, Lance, you got to put an automatic in for me. I'm sitting in all this traffic. I'd love it as an automatic. And I kept putting it off. I didn't want to do it. And eventually he said, look, come pick the car up. You got to put an automatic in for me.
Yeah, you lived a long time, too.
Yeah.
He's getting pretty old.
Yeah. And I thought to myself, hold on, I'll build him a brand new one. And I said, Carol, do you mind? I'll build you a brand new one, the automatic. I'd hate to spoil this one, and I'll keep this one. Would you let me keep this one? And I'll give it. He said, that's fine. We sold the paperwork, and I got Coupe 98, and he got his new automatic, which he has now. Well, he doesn't drive anymore, but standing there. Well, my wife and I proceeded to start driving it, and we've got about 13,500 miles on it now. We've driven it numerous times to Scottsdale for Barrett Jackson. We drive out. We've gone to Vegas, I don't know how many times. Weekends up to San Francisco in the car. To give you an idea, it's a smoother drive than a production Corvette. It has a nicer feel to it. Because the car is lighter, we could go with a softer spring setup. So it actually gives you a very, very nice ride. And of course the car has aircon, power steering, electric windows, central locking. So it's got all the mod stuff, you know, that's needed without having the excess that's not needed. That puts all the weight on the car.
All the stuff you want in a daily driver.
Yeah. That's it. It's comfortable to drive, lots of luggage room, you can put all the luggage in the back, and when you go down the road in that car, people are just blown away when they look at it. Okay, well here's one of our new Daytonas. This is the Shelby Daytona Mark II CSX 9000 edition. This car is actually CSX 9121. Mel Boca is the proud owner. It's on its way to Texas. So it's actually going back to Carol's birthplace, and it's going to be living in Texas. It's just an amazing car. You can have a look all around. Everything just looks incredible. The car turned out amazing. The guy picked the right color, the Guardsman. This is the Shelby Guardsman with the Wimbledon white stripe, the most popular combination. It has the new Mark II version. The CSX car has the deep dish wheels. And we've also done with a new treatment on the headlights. Ashton, just come open the hood and I'll show you how amazing the engine looks inside here.
Wow, look at those headers.
This is
that is incredible.
We call the most incredible man's jewelry. I got jewelry.
I got goosebumps when you opened that up. I really did.
Everybody reacts. I've got the goosebumps going right now. Everybody reacts the same way when they see this. You know, there's not not too much polished stuff and crazy hot rod kind of stuff. It's all real. You see the brushed aluminum, you see all the right stuff, the 8-stack injected engine, just absolutely amazing. Everything comes from us, the headers, all been manufactured at the factory. As you can see, the suspension is pretty trick. It's unequal length A-arm, coilovers all the way around. The car's air conditioning, all the stuff, the alternator, power steering, everything comes from the factory. All that has to be done is bolted to the engine here in the USA.
How many horsepower?
This particular engine is approximately 550 horsepower, and the car's about 2,950 pounds.
No traction
And
control.
it's American muscle, so it's instant. It happens straight away, no delay.
So tell me about, I was just driving the latest Cobra, and it got pretty hot with the side pipes. Tell me about how hot this one gets.
Well, the side pipes get hot, but they're tucked under, so it's not like the 427 Cobra where the side pipe could burn you. These are pretty much tucked under. You really got to get your leg under there to feel it. So it's not as bad as a Cobra.
And are those real knockoffs?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Pin drive wheels, the real deal. Everything is real, right down to the safety wire on the.
I saw
on the
that, yeah.
spinners.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah, that was done back in the 60s also.
And does it work? I mean, it seems like a pretty primitive...
If you see the wires looking loose, you know your spinners are coming loose. And
Can you open it up?
yeah, sure.
Yeah, let's look inside.
Okay.
I love the little touches where you have Carol Shelby's name on the. Yeah, why don't you hop in and I'll just shoot you this way.
I'll open up this side.
Yeah, and have a seat. Tell me a little bit about it.
Okay. Just to show you some of the.
Very modern.
Oh yeah. Well, they come with the standard Stewart Warner gauges, which are pretty much the industry what they used back in the 60s, similar to what they used back in the 60s. Some guys go for some upgrades. Bill went for the Autometer Elite gauges, and they are beautiful. They're programmable. As you can see, the air conditioning all working. It's got recycle, all the rest of that. Electric windows are here.
Why are 3 green and 2 white? Is there a reason for that?
These gauges will stay green while the engine's warm.
Yeah.
And once the engine warms up, they'll go white. And if you have anything wrong, if one of the gauges are the temperature's incorrect or whatever, the gauge will go red. Start showing red. So it's quite amazing how nice Autometer done that.
And how many gears?
This has got a 6-speed. It takes the T56 Magnum. As you can see, the seats are all nice, comfortable with the seat belts. And they've got guys that do the full lap belt setup. You can do that in the car also. Leather interior, the Alcantara up in the top.
Very plush.
Interior light. And you've even got a place if you want a radio, but most people enjoy the side pipe as a radio. But getting back to which is my favorite, it is so tough because the GT40 has got a hell of a place in my heart too. And if I'm going to do a track day and I'm lazy and I just want to have fun, the Daytona is wonderful. It's got power steering and you just have fun. It'll throw the tail out a little bit if you want to, and you can drift it, which is not the kind of car you do that with, but it could. Whereas the GT40 is serious. I mean, you get on the racetrack and all of a sudden, there's nothing that's built on the street that'll take that GT40 on in street trim. Well, as you can see, Ron, this is where the cars come. The owners select their engine, transmission, the setup they want to do. They'll either buy it from Shelby engines, from Roush engines, from Ford Racing, from GM Performance Parts, depending on the car. And Velardo, who runs V's Performance, will do the full installation for the owner, get everything completed for him.
This is one of the shops it's coming to.
Yes.
And how much does it cost to have an engine installed? Does it depend on the engine?
It depends on the engine. If they're doing a fuel-injected engine or a carbureted engine, there's a difference, or how complex the installation is. But it starts at around $3,500, goes up to about $6,000-$7,000.
How long does it take you to put an engine in? What's from the beginning?
To put a motor in,
Yeah.
usually it takes about 2 to 3 weeks for everything.
Okay, that's not
with
too
an
long.
alignment, with you dialing the car in, putting some test miles on it, making sure everything's okay. No leaks, no creaks. The cars are usually pretty, 98% done when they come from the factory. You only get about 2% of putting the engine in, transmission, drivetrain, doing alignment, like I said, and testing everything, making sure that everything's working properly. Fans come on, all that type of stuff.
Well, the Daytona Coupe, as you know, Carroll started winning a lot of races in the US, but he went to Europe, and the Cobras were really struggling in Europe. They didn't have the top speed for the long tracks that they had in Europe, and so Carroll got involved. Well, Peter Brock was working for Carroll at the time, and he said, "Look, you guys have got to put me a body on this car, and we want to go run Le Mans or Spa and all those tracks." And Peter was a young designer, come from GM, and he'd read a lot of books on different shapes and that he liked and that worked aerodynamically. And the guys weren't thinking so much about aerodynamics as much as far ahead as Peter was doing. And when Peter finished the first car, of course, they didn't like it too much. They weren't so crazy about it. But the first time they went out with this little 289 engine, the car ran over 200 mile an hour, and they were blown away. And the fuel consumption was incredible on it. And the Daytona, if Ford had not come along with the GT40 and given it to Carroll, the Daytona would have won 66 at Le Mans and all the rest of the races. They only came around in 65 towards the end of the season, halfway in the season, and they won every single race. And they were going to Monza with 5 cars, and they would have just cleaned up. So the Daytona was an incredible car. And when we decided to do the Daytona, Jim Price said, "I'm not going to do a kit car version of this. I've got to do the right car. I've got to do a car that people can drive, and I've got to have the right people behind it." And he didn't want to just go and try and do it on their own. So he approached Peter a couple of times, and Peter wasn't really interested. He didn't want to be involved in the kit car company at the time. But as time passed, he started getting more convinced that this Jim was the right guy to do this. Superformance know what they're doing. And he went over to the factory and spent a lot of time there. And they did, oh man, they must have done 8 or 9 prototype bodies. They even had a car with 2 different sides on it. They were trying all sorts of stuff to get the shape right. And I think they hit an absolute 10 when they did that shape. They managed to stretch the car. So many people have done that, stretch the car, stretch the Cobra, and it just looks wrong. But the Daytona, they got it right to make it drivable. And they also used Bob Nextat, who originally worked for Shelby in the 60s and designed the coilover suspension for the 427 car when they went from the slab side car to the 427. So we had 2 of the original guys that were involved as part of our team to develop the Daytona Coupe. And of course then Carroll Shelby endorsing the car, going through the car, and Carroll was crazy about the car. That was one of the cars I think he loved the most. He liked the GT40 and he loved his Cobra, no doubt about it, but he had such a soft spot for the Daytona. It was incredible. The time I spent with him when he would sit in the car and he would just look at everything and he would just ask, "What about this? And have you guys done that?" And he had the most incredible knowledge of what was going on in the industry. I was so surprised when he would say, "But what about this? And have you heard that they're doing this?" And I was like, wow, he knows. He knew everything. He was so up to date with what was going on and new technology. So the Daytona is just an amazing car, and we've had a lot of fun with it.
So do you want it? How much?
Daytona starts at 99 as a fiberglass bodied car. You also finish it around the 130 because it doesn't take a transaxle, it takes a regular 6-speed or 5-speed transmission. And we also have an aluminum version, but that starts at 250,000.
Can you get it with an automatic?
Oh yeah, well we did Carroll's. We actually did an automatic with paddle shifters.
Okay.
Master Shift, a great guy, Lou Zemmer. He helped us with that, and he supplied all the parts for it, and it's still there.
So that's all the people?
Yeah, that's all the people at the factory. That's Carroll signing one of the first Daytona Coupes, Coupe 8, which was my car. Of course, that's how far back I go with Superformance. That was back in 95, 96. I owned one of them in South Africa.
Is that Carol up there?
And that's Carol and my wife.
Yeah.
Many years ago.
You lived a long time.
Yeah, and there's Bob Bonnarand. Bob loved the Daytona Coupe. I mean, here's another one of Bob Bonnarand out at the track. The one day out at the track in Vegas, he goes tearing up and down the track, and they thought it's me. And next thing, the track security comes and said, "You've been reckless on the track. You've been going crazy." And I said, "It wasn't me. It was Bob Bonnarand in my car." So I got into trouble for Bob Bonnarand. There's Peter Brock came out to visit us 1 year out of the showroom when we were still in.
Quite a lot of history here.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's incredible.
Carol drove me in both. When I first dropped off the manual 6-speed Daytona Coupe 98 for him, and he took me down the road, and I mean, he was already 85, 4, somewhere around there. He got on it, the car came out sideways, he lifted suddenly, grabbed the next gear, did the same thing, flew down the road. And I thought, and I know his eyesight wasn't good at the time, but I thought to myself, you know what, if I'm in an accident with Carroll Shelby, that's the way to go. That's nobody can get any better than that. That's the height. I mean, that's the top. And yeah, and then he came back and loved it. And of course, I took him in the automatic pedal, and he wanted to know about and we had them on the dash, and we had an override switch for it and all that. So I showed him, we put it down, and next thing he just and we still in his parking lot, and we were sideways in the parking lot, hits the front. I thought, don't go in the street, please. He's going in the street. And as we hit the street, he just grabbed the paddle second, and of course it broke, the tires loose, and we were going sideways for quite a length of time. And when I just thought, you know what, he's not going to be able to bring it back. All of a sudden, man, that man knew how to drive a motor car, even at that age. Lifted his foot, straightened it out, grabbed the paddles again, and straight down the road to the next traffic light. And I thought, okay, well, I survived that one. So that was some of my, I just wish I'd videoed it at the time. I never thought about it.
Well, you can tell the story now.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Nathan, this is one badass Corvette.
Isn't it beautiful? This is based on the 1963 GS, and this baby has a Cadillac CTSV engine.
Get out. I mean, it's a replica. Why does it have a
It
Cadillac
is
CTSV?
not a replica. This is the only sanctioned General Motors Corvette built outside of General Motors.
Now, that is cool. And that is coming up next on the Fast Lane Car.